Coming down the stretch of a very competitive NBA season, we are witnessing the New Orleans Pelicans heat up at the right time as they are currently playing the best basketball of this NBA season. Out of their last 10 games, they won 8. They won 3 games in a row, and since the All-Star break, they've been one of the best teams in all of the NBA. They rank number 2 in defensive rating as a team. They rank number 2 in net rating, and they also rank number 9 in offensive rating. So they have a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense and a top 2 defense. So the New Orleans Pelicans, they've been outstanding on both sides of the ball, and right now they rank 5th place in the Western Conference, a half game against a Los Angeles Clippers team who has been looking lackadaisical as of late. So if the New Orleans Pelicans could get up into 4th place and steal that 4th seed from the Los Angeles Clippers, they could now get home court advantage in a potential 4-5 matchup against the Los Angeles Clippers. And we all know how important home court advantage can be in a 7-game series, especially if it comes down to a Game 7. So the New Orleans Pelicans, it seems like everything is finally going right for this team, and I think we can all come together and conclude that the New Orleans Pelicans has finally found the right recipe for success. And it hasn't been getting a new head coach or dramatically changing the scheme on the offensive or the defensive side of the ball or adding another star player to the rotation, but the recipe for success for the New Orleans Pelicans has simply been keeping this team healthy and also coming with a more balanced attack on both sides of the basketball. I think that's what's been so pivotal for the New Orleans Pelicans this season, especially when we look at the health of this team. I don't think we've since Zion Williamson has been drafted to the New Orleans Pelicans, I believe this is his 4th year in the NBA, we've never seen the Pelicans at full strength at this point in the season. And I think this is so big time for Willie Green and his players. We look at the injuries for the New Orleans Pelicans, and they've been so pivotal over these last couple of seasons, especially since we've seen the pairing of Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, and also adding CJ McCollum to the mix, because especially last year, we got a taste of how dangerous this team could be, and we didn't really get to see the 3 of them together. It was always a combination of the 2, whether it was Zion and Brandon Ingram, or Zion and CJ, or CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram. Whenever the New Orleans Pelicans could get 2 out of the 3 guys out on the court, we saw something special. And then so it just led us to think, what if they could get all 3 guys out there? And that's what we've seen more of this season. We look at the 2 best players on this team, Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, the 2 guys who seems to get hurt the most for the New Orleans Pelicans. They have been available for majority of this season. Zion Williamson has played 57 out of 68 games, and Brandon Ingram has played 62 out of 68 games. And we got to give huge props to these guys, because we know it's been a struggle for them staying out on the court consistently, and we see how big of a difference it makes when these guys are on the court for the Pelicans versus when they're not on the court. And I think we also have to give huge props to Coach Willie Green, because the way that he's been able to play these 2 guys, I'm not going to say that they're playing on a minutes restriction, but we're not seeing them play as many high minutes as some of the other stars in the Western Conference, like Kevin Durant, like Devin Booker. These are 2 guys on the Phoenix Suns that play 35 minutes a night. LeBron James and Anthony Davis, 35 plus minutes a night. Jokic, 35 plus minutes a night. And we go to the New Orleans Pelicans, and we look at Brandon Ingram, and we look at Zion Williamson, the 2 best players on the team. Zion Williamson is only playing 30 minutes per game this season for the New Orleans Pelicans, and Brandon Ingram is only playing 33 minutes per game. So for Willie Green to have that much trust in the rest of the team and the depth of the New Orleans Pelicans, I really think it's been a huge part of them being so successful this season, because they haven't had to wear down their 2 players who have been struggling with injuries over the last couple of years in a very competitive Western Conference. So I think that's very impressive by Coach Willie Green. And we look at the New Orleans Pelicans roster, I think Coach Willie Green, he has the perfect personnel to carry out this balanced attack that we've been seeing from this team. Now, I think this is so impressive on so many different levels. We look at the New Orleans Pelicans right now, they ranked 8th in the NBA on the entire season in offensive rating, and the points per game leader on the team is Zion Williamson, and he's just averaging 22 points per game. The New Orleans Pelicans, they have 5 other players in double figures. So that in itself, I think is very impressive to have one of the best offenses in the NBA, but it's not just one guy dominating the scoring charts. They don't have a single player on this team averaging 25 plus points, but the points this season have been spread out through the entire team. And we look at some of the role players that the New Orleans Pelicans have on this team that they can rely on to hit the ball in the hoop. You look at a guy like Jonas Valanciunas, who on any given night can get you a double-double. He can play with his back to the basket. He can knock down little mid-range shots. If he's really feeling it, he can knock down a couple of three-pointers. He's been in the NBA for a long time, still can play and knows how to put the ball in the rim. Herb Jones, I think he's been so impressive this season for the New Orleans Pelicans. I remember just reading about him in the draft, and they just saying like the one thing that he needs to work on is knocking down his open shots, and then he can worry about attacking off the dribble, getting to the rim, finishing around the rim, and he's been doing all of that this season. Herb Jones is averaging 11 points per game, and also he's shooting over 40% from the three-point line, so he's just been amazing for the New Orleans Pelicans, and we know what he does on the defensive side of the ball. He is a monster. Some people can already consider him to be the best wing defender in all of the NBA. And then you look at a guy like Trey Murphy, who I'm a huge fan of. He is so much for the New Orleans Pelicans, what his skill set is, and then also the impact that he has on the court. That's what I think is so important when it comes to a player like Trey Murphy. His ability to spot up from the hash, to knock down wide open threes, it is so big time for CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and Zion Williamson, guys that can get downhill. So the New Orleans Pelicans, outside of their big three, they're loaded with so much talent and so much depth, and with role players that excel at things, role players that excel at rebounding, excel at playing defense. So the New Orleans Pelicans, it's been amazing to see what they've been doing since the All-Star break. Zion Williamson, we have to give huge props to him. That it seems like the entire NBA world was very harsh on him when the Pelicans got blown out by the Los Angeles Lakers in the NBA in-season tournament, and Brian Windhorst just got on ESPN, I believe that was yesterday or the day before yesterday, saying that Zion Williamson has lost 25 pounds since then. So that's what I'm just saying. Like what Willie Green has been doing has been amazing. Zion Williamson, I don't know if it's true, but losing 25 pounds, he definitely looks like he's in great shape. And then this whole entire season, he's just been paced. He hasn't been overused at all. So I'm really excited to see this version of Zion Williamson in the playoffs, because it's not like the Zion that we've seen over the last couple of years. I know the numbers don't look the same, but Zion, I think he looks a lot better finishing around the rim. We're seeing a lot more finesse, and then also the New Orleans Pelicans has really unlocked him as a passer and as a playmaker. He's averaging almost 6 assists on the season since the All-Star break. That's outstanding for Zion Williamson, and he's also taken over games in the fourth quarter. And I remind you, he's averaging 22 points, around 6-7 rebounds, and around 5 assists per game on just 30 minutes. So once the playoffs come around, I expect that to tick up. I also expect his production and his usage rating to tick up a little bit more. And I'm so excited to see Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans in the playoffs. And then we also got to remember who Brandon Ingram is in the playoffs. That wasn't too long ago when he was just giving it to the Phoenix Suns in the first round, and we thought we were about to get a big upset in round one. So the New Orleans Pelicans, they have it all to be a really good playoff team and potentially get to the conference finals. They have a great young innovative head coach and Willie Green. They have a superstar player in Zion Williamson. They have another player who can play at a superstar level in the playoffs in Brandon Ingram. And then you have vets like CJ McCollum and Jonas Valanciunas who have seen playoff battles. And then you also have some really good young role players. Trey Murphy, who can get really hot, can knock down the three-point shot from anywhere on the basketball court. He can also put it on the floor, get downhill, finish around the rim. You have Herb Jones, who is a defensive monster and can literally guard 1 through 5. He's one of the toughest matchups in all of the NBA. And the New Orleans Pelicans, man, they're going to be so fun to watch. I'm telling you, I'm so excited about the playoffs in both conferences. I think the NBA is at a really competitive state. You just look at those standings in the Western Conference. They make me stress how close they are every time I see them. So the playoffs are going to be crazy this year. Every matchup is going to be a really good one. And I think we're going to see a bunch of possibilities. But that's what I wanted to talk about with you guys today. The New Orleans Pelicans keeping their players healthy, and then also just spreading out the offense throughout the entire team. I think it's been so big time for them this season. But if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, comment down below if you agree or disagree, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man, and that's curtains.